Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Let's go start now. Former undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns kicked off Crown Jewel 2025 with his brutal Australian street fight match against Bronson Reed. Both powerhouses had an intense battle. The original Tribal Chief looked impressive and was dominating the pace until Braun Breaker interfered and ambushed the leader of the OG bloodline. The pace once again saw another switch as the USOs took Braun and Bronson out. Meanwhile, it looks like the Stamford-based promotion has a massive problem with Roman Reigns. Here's why. Roman Reigns' major WWE match may be cancelled. At Crown Jewel, Jey Uso mistakenly took out Roman Reigns with a spear, which was meant for Bronson Reed. The Australian star then took advantage of the blunder, delivered his own signature move as the final nail in the coffin, and pinned the OTC to capture a shocking win. That said, it was certain that the former undisputed WWE Universal Champion's rivalry with the Vision was nowhere close to concluding. Moreover, there has been a buzz for a long time that Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins may compete in a super bout and finally settle their years-long feud at WrestleMania 42 next year in Las Vegas. With the Visionaries' unfortunate injury, the plans may be snubbed, and the Triple H-led creative team and Roman have landed in massive trouble as they must rework new plans for the 40-year-old icon. What can the OTC do now? Crown Jewel saw tensions brewing within the OG bloodline as Jey Uso mistakenly cost the former undisputed WWE Universal Champion a winnable bout. The OTC was visibly upset, and he was also heard saying to his cousin that he did not need them and didn't want to see them before Christmas, and he left the squared circle. Even main event Jey walked out on his twin, who was left alone. In the following episode of RAW, Jey told his brother Jimmy that maybe Roman was right and they should focus on themselves. Thus, the cracks within the OG bloodline are clearly visible, and it could lead to a new saga involving Roman and the USOs in the bloodline family story. Nayan is a WWE news and features writer at Sportskeeda Wrestling. After completing his bachelor's degree in mass communication from Potter International, he began working as a YouTube script writer. Nayan then transitioned to Pinkvilla as a combat sports writer. He gained valuable experience there before finally coming under the banner of Sportskeeda. Within 1.5 years, Nayan has written over 1,000 articles, interviewed MFN promotion owners, and conducted a Twitter campaign that gained over 50,000 retweets and more. He puts fact-checking and mindful journalism above everything by applying a 3-check method, where he tries to verify reports from reliable sources and cross-check whether other major publications have covered them. Looking back at his association with pro wrestling, Nayan recalls being hooked on the sport after watching Shawn Michaels vs. The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. Since then, the product has been an inseparable part of his life. Apart from the Heartbreak Kid being Nayan's favorite wrestler for his confidence and charisma, he is also a fan of Brock Lesnar due to the Beast's work speaks louder than words attitude. Nayan can be found performing mixed martial arts and reading true crime in his free time. WWE has a massive problem with Roman Reigns. For over 4 years, Roman Reigns has stood at the very top of WWE, the face of the company, the centerpiece of the Bloodline saga, and arguably the most dominant champion in modern wrestling history. His run as undisputed WWE Universal Champion has redefined storytelling and character evolution within sports entertainment. However, what was once considered WWE's greatest creative triumph has slowly become a looming challenge. The very success that made Roman Reigns untouchable may now be causing a massive problem for the company as it tries to move forward. The overstretched reign. Roman Reigns' title reign began with a creative purpose: rebuild his image, restore his aura, and give WWE a true megastar. That mission succeeded spectacularly. Reigns transformed himself from a polarizing figure into an undeniable attraction. Yet, after more than 1,500 days as champion, the storyline's longevity is beginning to weigh on WWE's overall product. The dominance that once felt fresh and thrilling has now made the main event scene stagnant. Every challenger, from Cody Rhodes to Jey Uso, has fallen. Each loss feels predictable, and fans are struggling to believe anyone can realistically dethrone him. Even though his limited appearances protect his mystique, they also slow WWE's momentum. The company's flagship champion barely competes, meaning that the undisputed championship often disappears from major storylines for weeks or months. This creates a vacuum at the top of the card, especially on SmackDown. When the champion isn't around, the show loses its sense of direction. Other storylines, like Solo Sikoa's rise or LA Knight's push, struggle to feel significant when they are ultimately framed as side plots to the Bloodline saga. WWE's reliance on Roman's absence to build intrigue is starting to backfire. Creative fatigue in the Bloodline story. The Bloodline storyline has been the most critically acclaimed narrative WWE has produced in years. However, even epic sagas must evolve. What began as a layered exploration of loyalty, power, and family has now entered a repetitive cycle. Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman continue to anchor the faction, but with Jimmy Uso's inconsistent alignment and Jey Uso's departure to RAW, the emotional core that once drove the story has weakened. Every new chapter feels like a remix of earlier moments, the internal tension, the silent stares, the whispered manipulation. While Solo Sikoa's recent push hints at generational change, WWE has yet to pull the trigger on a true transformation. Fans are craving a decisive shift, perhaps a civil war within the bloodline, or even Reigns finally being overthrown by his own kin. Without that, the story risks collapsing under the weight of its own history. The scheduling problem. Another major issue is Roman Reigns' part-time schedule. Once an active competitor who appeared weekly, Reigns now works a highly selective calendar, performing at only premium live events and select SmackDown episodes. While his limited presence adds star power to the shows he attends, it also exposes a deeper issue: WWE's overdependence on him. When Reigns isn't present, the company must fill the void with other storylines, yet few receive the same investment. Seth Rollins' World Heavyweight Championship has been framed as a workhorse title, but even that belt is often presented as secondary to Roman's. This imbalance damages WWE's brand structure. Fans view the Universal Championship as the real prize, yet it's rarely defended. That paradox hurts both the storytelling and the credibility of other stars who carry the company in Reigns' absence. The who's next dilemma. Perhaps the biggest problem WWE faces with Roman Reigns is the simple question: who can beat him? Over the years, the company has carefully protected Reigns, allowing almost no one to pin him clean. Cody Rhodes came the closest at WrestleMania 39, but even his story was extended for another year. Jey Uso's main event moment came and went without the closure fans expected. LA Knight, despite his popularity, was never truly booked as a credible threat. Now, as 2025 approaches, the list of viable opponents is alarmingly short. Solo Sikoa might eventually rise as a usurper, but that would require careful timing and storytelling. Seth Rollins could theoretically unify the titles again, but that risks undercutting RAW's championship. Even stars like Gunther or Randy Orton feel like temporary challengers rather than long-term successors. WWE's problem is that Roman's dominance has elevated him to such a mythical level that defeating him no longer feels like a career-making moment. It feels impossible. Whoever eventually beats Reigns must not only be believable, but also capable of carrying the company afterward. That's an enormous creative gamble. The impact on other stars. Roman's reign has inadvertently stalled the rise of others. Wrestlers such as LA Knight, AJ Styles, Bobby Lashley, and even Kevin Owens have cycled through feuds that ultimately lead nowhere because the title picture remains closed. For younger stars, like Carmelo Hayes or Braun Breaker, the message is clear: there's a ceiling until Roman's era ends. Meanwhile, Cody Rhodes' story, finishing the story, has been stretched to its limit. WWE seems determined to book the rematch between Cody and Roman at WrestleMania 41. But the danger is that fans may lose emotional investment if the payoff takes too long. Long-term storytelling works best when tension builds naturally, but it collapses when fans sense that outcomes are being delayed purely for the sake of timing. The legacy versus the future. Roman Reigns deserves credit for revitalizing WWE's main event scene and redefining what it means to be a top heel. His character work, confidence, and aura have set new standards. Yet, WWE now faces the challenge of balancing his legacy with the need to move forward. If the company continues to rely on Reigns' presence as its creative anchor, it risks stagnation. But if it moves on too abruptly, it could undermine the historical weight of his reign. The ideal solution lies in storytelling evolution, a proper passing of the torch. That could come through Solo Sikoa rebelling against Roman, or through Cody Rhodes finally conquering him in an emotional WrestleMania climax. Whatever the direction, the transition must feel earned, not forced. Conclusion. Roman Reigns has become both WWE's greatest success and its greatest obstacle. His unprecedented dominance legitimized WWE's modern era, but now threatens to suffocate its creative growth. The Bloodline saga, once a revolutionary story, has reached a point where it must either evolve or end. WWE's massive problem isn't Roman Reigns himself, it's what happens after him. The company must prepare for a future beyond the tribal chief, crafting new stars and fresh narratives that don't rely on his presence. Until that happens, every show he's not on will feel incomplete, and every challenger who fails will make the problem grow even larger. Roman Reigns may still be the head of the table, but for WWE, it's time to decide who sits next to him, and who's ready to take his place when the dynasty finally falls.